I think being a real estate agent is one of the greatest careers in the United States.
I don't necessarily encourage young people who are graduating to become a real estate agent right off the bat.
Real estate is one of the most cutthroat professions in America. Is it for you? Two experts, two perspectives. Ryan Serhant has sold over $5 billion in real estate, built a media empire around his listings, and become a household name in the business.
Take courses about the business, learn from them, invest back into yourself. Don't just run around and think you can do it because, oh, this looks easy, anyone can do it, they do it on TV.
Keyan also is a sales maverick who scrapped by eating tuna for his first few years before making the big bucks, but warns it's a brutal path and may not be worth it.
Every now and then when I lose a big deal, I will still crack open a can of tuna just to remember how failure tastes.
This is Yasir Rivera. He's 19.
I'm 19.
During the day, he works at the Newark airport as a baggage handler. But like many, he's thinking about getting into real estate. According to a report, the number of realtors has reached over 1.5 million in the US in 2021, an all-time high.
Hi, Ms. Peters. How you doing? My name is Yasir Rivera over at World Class Realty.
While the median salary of a New York realtor is about $80,000.
I grew up single family. My dad, he was in and out of prison, so I never really had like a male mentor growing up. Honestly, it's hard. I don't know what I'm doing.
To help you and Yasir decide, we've brought in two legends in the field. By the end of the show, Yasir will have to make a decision.
Should I become a real estate agent?
Hey, Ryan, good to see you.
Keyan, nice to meet you.
My first question is for both of you, so Ryan, you can start first.
Sure.
Is how did you get into real estate?
Most people who get into real estate don't do it like out of birth, right? It's not like you grow up and you're like, you know what I want to be? A realtor. You know, there's other dreams and aspirations, or at least that's what it was like for me. So I came to New York in '06 to do theater. Theater, that's all I ever wanted to do, and it's really, really hard to do, and it's really hard to make money. And so in 2008, in the summer, I ran out of money, and it was either move home, get a survival job, like bartend, wait tables, or go back to school, and I didn't want to do any of those. And a friend of mine said, listen, this theater thing that you do where you memorize information, you do improv, you meet strangers all day long, and you deal with rejection 20 times a day, that's being a real estate agent. You should get your license and rent an apartment a month. You can make a couple $1,000s a month, pay all your bills, and then don't go home and then work on whatever you want to do. So I got into real estate almost kind of like as a plan B, just so I could afford to stay in New York City, and then I just got addicted to it. After you do your first deal, it's like, you want to do another one. And then another one. And then 15 years later, you're still doing it.
Cool. Now, Keyan, what about you?
So my path was similar but different. Growing up, outskirts of Poughkeepsie, wasn't really a lot going on. I knew I wanted to get out of there. After college, moved to the city. I actually had an assistant job at Sony Music. Got fired, and I was like, well, now's the time, I guess. So like he said, it was a plan B. Got my license. 3 months in, it's Thanksgiving Eve, you know, everyone goes out on Thanksgiving Eve. I'm minding my own business out with my friends at the bar. Some girl comes up, she goes, what do you do? I go, oh, I work in real estate. She goes, what was your plan A that failed? And I was like, damn, okay, all right.
What does the first year look like in real estate?
It's terrible. Listen, it's with great risk comes great reward, right? You got to determine really like what you want to do. If you just want to be comfortable, have a 9 to 5, go out with your boys at night, have your weekends, do your thing, and really just have a life and then have a job that supports that life, then I would say getting into real estate is probably a really tough decision. But if you want to have complete control of your destiny, your fate, right, then that takes some risk. Being a real estate agent is no different than being any other type of entrepreneur, with the exception of you don't actually have to like own inventory. You know, if you say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to go sell, you know, widgets, like you got to go raise money, buy the widgets, build the widgets, figure out how you're going to sell the widgets, and maybe you could build a big company. Here, especially in New York City, like the inventory is everywhere. Other people have already built it. So you just have to show it to people. I got in the summer of 2008. My first day was the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy.
Oh wait, yeah,
right? So like my first day, I was at a conference table. Lehman was filed for bankruptcy. I was like all ready to go and be a real estate agent, and agents started leaving. Not like half of the industry bailed because the market totally crashed. And so that's the market that I learned in. But my first year I made $9,000, a little over $9,000. And so I couldn't survive. So I was doing other things. I was hand modeling. I was like doing random stuff to pay the bills. If you grind and you really put in the work for 3 years, you will be set for life.
3 years.
Right?
Ooh.
But if you quit in any of those 3 years, which most people do, because it's just really, really hard, then you quit.
I think after the first 2 years, 80% of people don't renew their license? It's
Yeah.
between 70 and 80% after
It's
the first
massive.
2 years. You have to renew it every 2 years. Don't even renew their license.
That's crazy.
Now, out of that 20%, how many are absolutely crushing it, right? I don't know the statistic. But the first year, I started at more like a boiler room, chop shop type place.
What do you say?
Sort of like, you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? Where they go to that office and they're on the phone, and that was it.
Posting ads, you're just
I would
like,
get these leads.
pick up the phone and start dialing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd get these leads at this company, and the leads would say, no broker's fee, beautiful
Yeah.
studio doorman, $2,000, West Village. And then
Hot, yeah.
and they'd send me the lead and be like, go. And I'd be like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. They'd be like, well, good luck. And that was it. That was my first year, right? And I realized very quickly, so he learned in a bad market. The market I was in, I got my license October. So things get quiet going into the winter. So I learned. The first year is always going to be rough. Always. Unless, of course, you're very well connected, which to my knowledge, Ryan wasn't. I wasn't. He started by posting rentals in Koreatown, 38 West 31st Street, all that stuff.
Dude, he knows my life.
Yeah. I remember the first 3 months especially, the absolute worst. And I lost a deal to this kid in the office. I'm not going to say his name. And I lost a deal to him. It was a small rental deal. And he goes, you got to be faster than that if you want to make it in this business.
Yeah.
And he didn't renew his license 2 years later. But there are no guarantees, right? So it's not, he's right. After 3 years, I was finally able to maybe enjoy a weekend. Not both days, one day. A good close rate for a rental agent, like a great close rate, 18%. So you take out 100 people. If you're great, 18 of them are going to close with you. And you just have to love pain and you have to love failure. You have to know that this person who you just took out on Saturday and Sunday, maybe pay for the cabs, the Ubers, that, great, I'll be in touch, I love that fourth apartment. You will never hear from them again. And you'll have nothing to show for it.
Now, Ryan, my next question for you is, when did you know you made it, like, in the industry?
10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever really make it. There's always people who are going to be more successful than you, who are doing bigger and better things. And so for me, I think made it for me was like the moment I woke up and wasn't really, really nervous about money. Because in this business, you can make 6 figures relatively simply without having to go back to school, without having to take on student debt, without having to get a small business loan, without having to do a lot of other stuff that other people might have to do in different industries, right? It's really just about hustle those early years. The more people you meet, the more people you talk to, the more outgoing you are, the more deals you're going to do, because these people are going to find apartments anyway, right? They're going to find houses anyway. Your job is just to convince them to do it with you, right? You're not selling anyone anything, right? You're selling yourself to using you to make a decision that they're probably going to make anyway, right? So then it's just about, I want to work with you because you know what you're doing. And those early years are just tough because you don't know what you're doing. And so you're going to team up with other people. You're going to learn from them. But it took me, obviously most people know me because I did a TV show for 10 years called $1 Million Listing New York, right, on Bravo. Before I got cast on that, which was at the end of 2010, I was thinking about going back to school. I was thinking about different options. Yeah, it's hard. And then somehow I got cast on that show, and I was like, oh God, I guess I'm doing this.
Brian,
Gene?
come on in.
I just told him I'm the best agent in the world. Now I got to go be the best agent in the world. And I think probably when that show came out in 2012 and I had like a good book of business and I'd moved and I wasn't nervous about anything anymore, and I saw that. So that was 4 years later.
So just to be clear, you didn't feel like you made it when you listed that $250 million apartment?
Oh, that just happened.
$250 million.
That just happened.
Yeah, you felt like, oh, maybe things will work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my next question for Keyan would be,
Sure.
when would you think someone should throw in the towel in real estate? Like, enough?
Oh, man, I've seen people throw in the towel at various stages in their career. I've seen people become successful, very successful. I don't know if Ryan shares this. And then they say, I feel burnt out, or this isn't for me. So you have to be very honest with yourself and say, okay, what is my threshold for failure or pain, or what can I handle? And the one thing you see on social media when these people are preaching the grind and the hustle culture and wake up at 4 a.m., I know you do, is that it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Right. not everybody has to start their own real estate company, right? Successful, he does it, right? Or not everyone has to work 7 days a week. And I don't look down on people who quit. The people who don't quit will succeed, but at what point? There are so many people here coming for your neck at all times to your throat. You can't just say, I'm gonna work, do the baggage handling thing and do real estate. You have to pick and you have to set yourself on that path.
What moment in the first 3 years did you want to give up, and why didn't you?
I quit all the time those first 3 years. I remember taking out these girls to find like a shared apartment after college and walking around, and I'm not from New York. Like there's no iPhone. Like I had like MapQuest directions printed and in my pocket where I'd look out. I'm like,
Can't imagine.
Pretending to be an expert. Yeah,
I was like, Christopher Street is where'd the road just go?
Oh, man, yeah.
And this one girl, like I got lost, and she just yelled at me. She's like, you should never be a real estate agent, and walked off. And I just quickly like walked in the other direction because I just assumed all of New York City was watching me be embarrassed publicly. And those are hard. That's tough to come back from. And that happened a lot, especially in the beginning.
I had lost this big deal in my mind. It was a huge deal. It was a $6,000 rental. I went home and made eggs, and I just felt the egg whites, and I felt the tears sort of like streaming down. I was like, man, I didn't even have to put any salt in these, because the tears were just flowing into them. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I just thought, I never wanted to quit, but I thought, what if this doesn't work out? And I would go, I don't know if you know the place Cozy, it's like Panera. They'd give free bread samples. Like I'd go there for lunch and have some free bread. I was like, okay, how long can I just eat free multi-grain bread samples for lunch, right? But Ryan made an excellent point. It's addictive. It's addictive, and you have to have the certain personality type and the certain hustle. So you go back and compute all the hours that you spent calling people, and forget about the mental anguish, just the hours, it'll be below minimum wage, but it was a step in the right direction. You got to build it brick by brick by brick.
There's 1,000 moments where we all try to quit, right? I think for, not even just for real estate, for any job, like life is hard. These are weird times that we live in. Like everything is upside down at all times. So just trying to find just that positivity about life. It could be totally raining outside, but you're gonna say, I see sunshine. And you are going to lead forward that positivity because you have that choice. Like sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. So if you're excited, no matter how shitty the calls are and the mean the people are and the lies, like a grandmother is going to lie to your face in this business to save $5. As long as you're okay with that and just say, okay, great, she's one of 8 billion people, and move on to the next one, you'll be okay. And the big difference for me between having a steady job, 9 to 5, and I have my life, and then what we do today is I'm obsessed with the future. The greatest deal I've ever done in my whole career, you know what it is?
What is it?
I haven't even done it yet.
Really?
The greatest client I've ever met, I haven't even met that person yet. And so like that's what gets me excited about next year and next year and next year. Keep that in the back of your mind as you're making those calls, because one of those people is going to change your life. That deal is going to lead to the next one and the next one and the next one. And it's always like right when you're about to quit, there's that meme of like the guy digging through the earth, right? And he quits, and the other guy who's doing the same thing and right on the other side was like the pot of treasure, right? That's like, it's always right on the other side.
What does the pinnacle of success look like?
The pinnacle of success. Kind of going off of what you were just saying, it depends on what you want. Like someone might say the pinnacle of success is being named the #1 real estate agent in New York or in the country, right? And I did that, and it was fine at the time, right? Some people might say it's you sell so much, you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna go start my own company, and so I did that, right? So it's fine. Some people might say it's being able to cash out. Like you made it so far that just by being a real estate broker, you retired in your 40s, or that you became a developer. No matter how successful you are, the grind never stops. It's 1,000 phone calls to get a deal done, right? It's 2,000 emails, plus the texts, plus the DMs now, plus the WhatsApps and the WeChats and talking to the moms and the banker and this, that, to get one deal done. It's a lot. So it depends on what you want to do. But I would say, like, if you can get to a point where you are doing consistent business, right? You have a good lead flow, you have a pipeline, you've built up a referral business, and you don't need that second job, you're not nervous, you're booking vacations for your family, you got a car, like you got a good life, you got a house that you own, and you're doing it all by being a real estate agent, like most people don't even get that far. And that would be a good, like, healthy goal to get to. Financially independent, not worried about anything. You're not going and buying a Ferrari, right? But you're living your life.
Maybe a G-Wagon.
As an agent, yeah, I have one of those too. So, yeah, if you look at every successful person ever, the one common denominator, no matter what, whether they're the smartest or just the luckiest, is they all set goals. They all had vision boards of some kind, whether it's in their phone or just mentally, or they actually have it in front of them at all times. Like they have an end game for where they're trying to get to, and then they get there and they redo it. Like, okay, I made it here, now I want this, and now I want this. And it keeps pushing you forward and pushing you forward. The people who quit, the people who get out of the business, the people who are just always gonna be okay with the 9 to 5, the W-2 lifestyle, the people who are just living life and they don't have that vision board because they don't want more for themselves. And that is totally okay.
That's fine, that's okay. Yeah, I think I mean, listen, to get great job with a union that has a pension, you retire at 45, that's also great. So it's not for everyone. And I think recently, I try not to look at the hustle culture stuff too much on social media, but there's so much shaming. If you don't get up and grind, you're a loser. It's not necessarily true. It's not for everybody, right? It's just not.
So my next question is, what's the worst part of being a real estate agent?
There are no guarantees in this business, and that is the worst part about being a real estate agent. It's like people will put a deposit down, maybe $500,000 on an apartment. The market takes a hit, and they go, well, you know what? It makes more sense for me to walk away from $500,000 than to buy this apartment. And I don't care what anybody says. In your mind, when you have a deposit down and there's a contract signed, you're already thinking to yourself how you're going to spend that money. You consistently feel the instability. Fear is good in the right dose. To wake up every morning like the rent is due, at the same time, when you start, you're so consumed with, oh my God, I might fail, that'll burn your house down.
Wow. What have you given up for this career?
I do not have a personal life the way my friends do who have other jobs. There's like a double-edged sword to working for yourself. I would say, one of the scariest parts about being in this business is you are your own boss. Like, are you actually going to listen to yourself? Will you take your own advice? Are you gonna wake up and feel sick and not wanna do this and it's pouring rain outside and have to go show 20 apartments to a 19-year-old and her dad from Kentucky, to make maybe $800? Right? Are you going to get up and go do that? Because, and there's a quote that I turn to a lot, which is professionals, right? The most successful people, they make decisions based on their commitments, right? Amateurs, all the people that are going to quit, get out of the business, they make decisions based on how they feel. And so anytime I'm feeling like, yeah, I don't want to do this, I'm like, nope, that's not what a professional would say. A professional would get back up, get out there and go and do it, because I always know that I'm going to feel so much better from doing it. What was the question? Totally just forgot.
It was like, what have you given up?
Oh yeah, sure. My mental health. Listen, personal life, time. I don't have that many friends. Everyone becomes a client. Everyone becomes an acquaintance that way. Because of the instability, you're only as good as your last deal. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the minute you say, I'm going to go take a week off, right? You do it. And there's money that you will not make now. It's not like you're at a job and you have paid time off, right? PTO. Where you're like, yep, that's part of my deal. I'm going. It's awesome. Turn my phone off. I don't even look at emails. No, you're going to be stressed out, And so for me, that pushed me to then not take days off, which probably isn't very healthy, but it was the only way I knew how to do it. And so that was probably my biggest sacrifice.
So I'm about to be 33. I have never taken a vacation in my adult life. Ever.
Really?
Yeah. Because I always felt like if I leave, somebody else is going to take that spot. It's very unhealthy. I'm not saying this to brag to you. Never taken a vacation. Even when I met my wife, I was like, hey, I really like you, but listen, Saturdays I can't hang until after 4:30.
Yeah.
Sundays I can't hang until after 5. And a lot of people, and I can't make your brunch. So I've given up.
Yeah. I haven't been to a brunch in 15 years.
Yeah, So we can have eggs for dinner if you want, but I've essentially given up everything because I wanted to be successful so bad. Did it work out? Sort of, because if Ryan woke up tomorrow and he had my book of business, he'd be like, this sucks.
Not true.
I don't know.
How do you do a burnout?
How do we do a burnout? You cry on the inside like a real winner.
Right.
It's supposed to be funny. It's not funny to you? No?
No, I'm just sorry.
So my mom always said to me.
See, I was
when
gonna
I was
go
like, when I was, every time I get school, everything's too hard, and my mom was like, cry on the inside, right? Life is hard for everyone. But the burnout thing, you've got to find like your mini ways to have resets. Your mini ways, whether it's like a Saturday morning and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna order in, I'm gonna eat pancakes, and I'm just gonna binge Netflix for 6 hours. Like you have that reset, or that thing that you go to. Like for me, I don't wake up early because I enjoy it, right? But I fix burnout by having habit and by having ritual and routine. That routine keeps me sane. Otherwise, every day I'd wake up like a freaking headless chicken running all over the place. Wake up early, I go to the gym. Most times I don't want to. I do it anyway, right? And that keeps me really sane, and I think has protected me against burnout, while also having those moments for those little resets that you take as you need it.
When I was growing up, I used the word overwhelmed with my father once. I must have been 16, and he looked at me like with disgust, and he was like, when I was 30, your mom got sick and died. I had 2 kids to raise. Do you ever think I sat around and went, I'm overwhelmed, I feel burnt out? And from that point on, I never used until right now that word. I was just never used it. I took it out of my vocabulary.
Yes.
Now that's a very, very easy answer to be like, well, just don't burn out. Oh, okay, thanks so much, right? That's just it's not that easy. How do I deal with burnout? You just have to push through it. Anyone who's successful at anything that they do, in my opinion, is an extremist. He referenced Kobe earlier. The guy was up 4 hours before everybody else. He was full sweat before everybody else was in the gym. That's extreme. He mentioned Succession. One of the main actors stays in character the whole time for 6 months as they shoot. That's extreme. You get great results through extremism. And once again, everyone has a different threshold for failure. You almost have to love pain to be in this business because 18% close rate, it's painful.
So, after the discussion, what would Yasir's decision be?
So my decision on should I become a real estate agent, I think is yes.
Amazing.
Welcome
Yes.
to the family of crazy people.
Damn.
Right. Thank you.
Well, it's gonna suck for a while, but if you stick with it, you will be successful. It is.
We just got new competition.
So, well, yeah, that's that. Now I'm like, man, I
Deal
gotta
with
go.
this.
I gotta get up 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Yeah, because of you.
I think today was very beneficial for me. I gained a lot of knowledge to know like that when you start, that everyone goes through like the hiccups, and it's just a matter of if you stick with it, like you can see the success.
Are you thinking about real estate? Put your advice in the comments below.